methods for a little synthetic killing. It's all harmless fun.
What's up, peeps? Brian here with the Nerd Theory channel, going to do a quick review on a little game called Small Radios, Big Televisions. In case you didn't already know, basically what we do here on the channel is that we don't write out our reviews. We're just coming up with this on the top of our head and we give it a score at the end. And full disclosure, we did get this game from Adult Swim Games to review, so just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, let's get started. What a fresh idea. A point-and-click adventure game that's not really, I shouldn't say adventure game, more of a puzzle game. Point-and-click puzzle game that doesn't really feel like a point-and-click puzzle games that we're probably used to. Now, on the outside, what you're probably thinking, watching the video, is that it's like, hey, this looks a lot like Fez. In a lot of ways, you would be right. Where Fez kind of has that, you know, twisting of the, of your surroundings. But this one doesn't really go as deep per se. So basically it runs down like this. You have 5 levels, and each one you're going inside a building and trying to find these cassette tapes. Now there's about 3 cassette tapes in each world, or I shouldn't say world, they call them factories in the game. So there's 5 factories, so you go through it and there are things that you have to do. You have to pick up gears, you have to, you know, find where they go, put them in place, activate things to open up doors. But furthermore, you find these cassette tapes. Yes, cassette tapes. You heard me, kids. If you don't know what it is, go, like, Google it or something. So anyway, you find the cassette tapes and you put it in this tape deck, which I guess from what I understand is attached kind of to a virtual reality machine that your character, quote unquote, has. You don't really see yourself as a character. You're just kind of outside looking in on everything and controlling things. But when you put in the tapes, there's some sort of like virtual reality experience that you see. Now, during these virtual reality experiences, you pick up these gems which unlock doors in the area or around the area that you're at. So there's usually about 3 gems you have to pick up, sometimes more. But essentially what happens is, as the game goes along, you find these tapes, but there's also some of the tapes initially when you see them or when you watch them, you don't find the gems. Well, it turns out that you have to find these special magnetic fields in some of the areas, throw the tapes in there, get them magnetized, and when you watch that tape again, it's different. So you're getting a different experience every time you watch these tapes, or when you magnetize these tapes rather. They create something else, and then you can find the secret item, the little gem, which should be green, in each one. Now, having said that, the game itself is not that long. You're looking at about 2 hours for a playthrough, okay? Not a big deal. However, having said that, there are, you can go back and find other things to help. And I don't know because, here, okay, full disclosure, I got every single trophy on the PS4 version of this, and then for some reason my save file got corrupted. So there may be an alternate ending to this game that I don't know about after I completed everything and did everything. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But speaking of story, it's a very obscure story. I mean, you kind of get the gist of what's going on. Like, basically, from the looks of it, shit went down. Okay, there's nobody left. You kind of have these dilapidated factories that you're finding these old cassette tapes in. And the only kind of narrative that you get is between a couple of machines, one of which is a radio, and I'm not sure what the other one is by watching it. We'll have to play through it again. So they're talking to each other in between the refinery scenes, or every time you go into a new factory, rather. So with that, you kind of have to figure it out on your own. And it's one of those games where it doesn't spell it out for you at the end. You kind of have to come up with your own conclusions, I think. Either that, or it actually does have a very finite ending after you find all the items when you go back to go through the second time. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, and I wish I did. So sorry about that. But I just didn't want to wait longer to do this review and have to go through it again. So anyway, the soundtrack's kind of strange. There's nothing wrong with the soundtrack, but it has that very distorted noise like you would get from like an arcade game maybe in the 80s, that where the music's not really off track. It's kind of going whoa, whoa, which is kind of the point of the game. It actually has a very retro vibe to it. On a visual scale, I will say that it's a very trippy game. Okay, not so much as you're going through the different factories, mind you, but with the videotapes and magnetizing them to get a different experience. Sometimes it's an off-the-wall experience. There's actually one that I was kind of scared me for a second because it's just kind of, I don't think it was meant to be scary. It was just kind of took me by surprise because of that very 8-bit, 16-bit technology, from an analog world is essentially what it comes down to. So to kind of tighten this up and just get to the gist of it, Small Radios, Big Televisions is a very bold, a very psychedelic point-and-click trip in a very analog world. Despite its short story and playtime, there is reason to go back and discover new items you miss along the way to try to understand its narrative. But if you don't feel bad, because that might be the point of it as well. I think it's a game that's more visual than it is story-based, even though there is a story in there. I just haven't figured it out yet. So, with that, I'm going to give this game... I liked it. Kind of short. You know what? It's a clever game. It's a very clever game, and the development team behind it should be very proud of it. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. That's it, everybody. This has been another review with Nerd Theory. Please look in the upper left-hand corner and find the Nerd Theory symbol. Click it and subscribe to us. Please like and share the video as well. Did you like the game? Have you tried the game? Would you like to try the game? And by the way, just so that you know, there actually is a couple of playthrough videos on the Nerd Theory channel of the last couple of levels. So that's it. I'm Brian, and we're out. What's going on, everybody? Brian here with the Nerd Theory channel and MPG podcast. If you like what you saw, please support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/nerdtheory.